Glenn.
Did you hear the Joe Biden audio?
I did. I did hear it.
Yeah.
It was a spectacular roller coaster of a listen.
Yeah, it was stunning. Now, you might be thinking, wow, what a coincidence that this is coming out at the same time that Joe Biden is incompetent book is coming out and all the Democrats are running for cover.
Well, you mean the audio, or are you talking about the cancer diagnosis?
Both.
Yeah.
This is coming out, and now the cancer diagnosis is coming out, and the book is coming out. Coincidence that they're all happening at the same time?
Well, the audio we know is not coincidence because it was first released by one of the authors of the book. So that Alex Thompson. So that one I think was definitely.
Yeah.
I don't know if he just happened to get it a couple days before, or if he just timing it very well for his book release. Either one is fine with me. I'm glad we have it.
Now, the cancer diagnosis, do you believe this is the first time they're hearing about it?
Someone legitimately, a friend of mine texted me, and he's like, am I being too cynical here? Or it was like, is it a little suspicious that they're releasing this 2 days before the book comes out? And I said, you're not being cynical.
You're not being cynical.
You're not being cynical enough, probably.
Nope.
That doesn't mean that we celebrate Joe Biden's cancer diagnosis.
No.
It's terrible and it's awful. And I'm sure going through that is awful. And everyone has had a family member that's gone through something like this, and it's terrible every time you hear about it. But it's not crazy to question whether we're hearing this at a time designated by Dr. Jill or somebody near them. I mean, they may have heard. I mean, there is the audio that has gone around from was it last year, where he does say he has cancer on stage. That he said that, and at the time we were told, "Oh, it's a gaffe," and it's believable that he would just say he has cancer when he doesn't because he was mentally incompetent, and they were lying about that too. But very possible, I think, also that he had a cancer diagnosis.
Is it?
Maybe he didn't think it was as aggressive at the time, didn't feel the need to disclose it to the American people. Who knows what they hid from us?
So, is it too cynical to say they wouldn't have had a problem knowing that he had cancer if he was going to run? They would have just run him, he would die, and then, in office, and Kamala would take over. And it wouldn't be anything bad for those who are running the administration.
There's no level that is appropriate for cynicism.
Okay,
It can't be high enough.
Okay.
They've lied to us so many times about this type of stuff. You have to question everything that they say.
Now,
and we should also point out, this is the time we don't actually technically need to know about his prostate.
Yeah.
This is now. It is a private matter for them now. It was not a private matter for them when he was in office. And that is the problem here. He actually now is a time where they cannot tell us about it for 3 months if they don't want to. They can tell us about it. God forbid, if he dies of cancer, they can tell us about it the day after. They don't have to tell us ever. It is now a private matter for him. It was not a private matter when he was in office.
Okay. Now, I want to ask you, we're all cynical for a reason. But I want you to hear a couple of stories, and I'm going to tell you exactly how I feel about them. And I would imagine it's probably where you feel. But there's a problem with the way I feel. Group of FBI agents involved in the January 6 investigations petitioned a federal court to destroy a list containing approximately 5,000 names tied to the probes. Their plea comes in response to Ed Martin, the newly appointed weaponization czar, who has vowed to name and shame those he believes unjustly targeted over 1,000 Americans linked to the January 6th events. Martin's stance is clear. Quote, there are some really bad actors, some people that did some really bad things to the American people. And if they can be charged, remember, statute of limitations, if they can be charged, we'll charge them. But if they can't be charged, we'll name them. This approach has ignited a firestorm of debate around the balance between transparency and the potential risks to those named. The agents argue releasing the list could endanger them and their families, especially consider that many January 6 defendants have been pardoned and are now free. Okay. Do you believe that's why the names have to be destroyed? the 5,000 names can't be released and destroyed, that it's only about fear? Okay. The next story. Kash Patel and Bongino come out, and they said a couple of things. They said that Epstein's death was suicide. Bongino came out and said, I've seen it. You know it when you see it. It was suicide. Immediately, I thought to myself, I don't think so. However, I know Dan Bongino. I've known him for years. I think he's a credible guy. I think he loves his country. I know Kash Patel, not as well as I know Dan Bongino, but I know Kash Patel. I think he's an honorable guy. I think he loves his country. I know that they both work for Donald Trump. I know Donald Trump. I know that he loves his country. So, wait. If I don't believe them, if I'm saying I don't believe that, just like I say I don't believe the prostate thing, is new to the family, I have no evidence of that. I have zero evidence of that. It's just what Stu said. I've been lied to over and over and over, especially from those people, about his health. So I don't believe any of it. But that is the key word is believe. Believe. Not know, believe. I want to show you there are 7 stages of an empire. We are in the last stage, and there's only 2 things that have to happen in that last stage. When I give it to you here in a minute, I think it'll blow your mind. We have no trust at all in anything. If I don't believe Patel and Bongino, then do I believe Donald Trump? Do I believe that there's some conspiracy inside of MAGA? You see, where does this end? This is where critical thinking comes in. Critical thinking is something that is no longer taught. You have to ask yourself these questions. Instead of saying, I don't believe it, ask questions. And here's the question I ask myself. To believe Epstein killed himself, what is it I would need to see that could be produced? 1, full, unredacted forensic and autopsy reports. I'd like to see it. I'd like to hear other coroners talk about it. I'd like to see other people, not just handpicked by the media, but I'd like to see the evidence myself. I'd like to hear from coroners all over. Okay. I'd like to see the surveillance footage or sworn testimony from neutral parties confirming no foul play on that. I want to know the history of that camera. I want to know when it went out exactly, and I know we do, but I want the whole thing, including the video leading up to it going out. I want a timeline that explains the broken cameras, the sleeping guards, and why the most high-profile prisoner in America was removed from suicide watch just days before. Why did that happen? You see, it is the string of coincidence and the constant lies from both sides of the administration, both Republican and Democrat. We don't believe the Department of Justice anymore. We don't believe our FBI. We don't believe, apparently now, our own administration. That doesn't lead anywhere good. That's, let me just say the one name, Robespierre. That's what leads to out-of-control revolution. So instead of saying, I don't believe it, which I don't believe it. But what would be much more helpful is, I want to see those things. I want to hear from Dan Bongino and say to him, Dan, specifically, what did you see? Because I know you. You didn't believe this either. So what is it? And show it to me. What did you specifically see that changed your mind? Because I want to be there with you. I really do. So show it to me. Now, with the FBI agents, the other story, where they're trying to, erase everybody's name that was involved. I want concrete threats of violence against specific agents. I don't want just general fear. Don't tell me that there are 5,000 agents and they may not be able to prosecute them because of statute of limitations, and so they all just walk away, and we're going to destroy their names. That's what's being asked. Destroy that list. No. Why? General fear. I'm sorry. General fear is no longer good enough. Evidence that the list is incomplete or misused. Show that to me, and you can make a case. Show me a legal or constitutional rationale for why law enforcement that was involved in January 6th should remain anonymous. Show that to me, a legal or constitutional rationale. Without any of that, that looks like self-preservation instead of institutional transparency. I have to see things. I'm sorry, but we should all be Thomas. I need to put my finger in the hole. Because we must repair trust. All right, let me take a break, and I want to come back, and I want to give you the 7 phases of an empire, from rise to fall. There are 7 phases. I remember the last time I went over this, we were in the 6th, and it was kind of debatable if we were fully in the 6th. We're now in the 7th, and it is crystal clear that we're in the 7th stage, and there's only 2 things in that stage that have to happen before the empire falls. And this is not me, this is not Grok, this is thousands of years of watching countries and empires fall and rise. What does it take for one to rise? What does it take for one to fall? They all have the same pattern. And this is why this story about Epstein, about the DOJ, about January 6th, about Joe Biden, all of this matters and must be cleaned up. I'll give it to you in 60 seconds. First, ever throw a stone into a still pond? The ripple starts very small, but then moves out in every direction. And when you help save a baby through preborn, that ripple doesn't stop with one life. You're saving a child and you're saving a mom. You're giving a mother hope. You're blessing a family that might not have otherwise existed. Think about it. A baby could grow up to be a teacher, a doctor, a mom herself, a scientist, a president, whatever. And her children and their children, that's a legacy you started by one single act of compassion. For just $28, you can provide an ultrasound to a woman in crisis at a preborn clinic. For many of them, the moment that they hear the heartbeat, that's everything. That's the moment she chooses life. The chance of life doubles. $28 doubles the chance at life. One ultrasound, one life. And from that life, only God knows the ripples. To get involved, just dial pound 250, say the keyword baby. That's pound 250 keyword baby, or go to preborn.com/Beck. That's preborn.com/Beck, sponsored by Preborn. 10 seconds, station ID. Okay, so Sir John Glubb, he wrote something called The Fate of Empires, and others have added to this now, and I'll show you some of the examples. But the first stage of an empire is the age of pioneers. It's an outburst and expansion. Here's the legs of the age of pioneers. Driven by vision, courage, hard work, often religious or moral conviction. Is that what started us? Yeah. Is that how it happened in America? Yeah. Vision, courage, hard work, religious or moral conviction. Example, the Rome's Republic era, America 1776 to 1820, and the values of that: sacrifice, virtue, risk, and independence. Then comes the age of conquest, strength, and expansion. This is the era beginning in America around 1820. I think by 1830, the Republic is no longer recognizable to our founders. But here's the second stage of an empire, and this is Rome's early empire and the Civil War, pre-Civil War. It's military or economic conquests, consolidate territory, consolidate influence. Civil institutions are built, education spreads, infrastructure grows. Third, the age of commerce. Wealth complexity. Economic strength becomes dominant. Luxury increases. Business elites rise. Trades and speculation eclipse risk-taking pioneers. The examples: Venice, the Netherlands, British Empire in the 1800s, U.S. post-World War II. And the values are profit, efficiency, and comfort. So this is us after World War II, up until maybe the 1980s. And that's the age of affluence, leisure, and decay begins. So this is the beginning of the downfall. Stage 4, material wealth explodes. Government growth accelerates. You saw that? Did that happen to us? Citizens grow dependent on the system. Virtue gives way to entitlement. Education becomes secular and critical of founding ideals. This is what happened in the 2nd century of Rome, and also between 1980 and 2010. The values: comfort, consumption, and cynicism. Now we go in to the 2 final stages of an empire. And the last time I gave this, I said I think we're in the 5th stage, because we had some of it, but we didn't have all of it. I believe all of these boxes are checked, which puts us in the final stage, the 6th or 7th stage of the fall of an empire, the rise and fall, last stage. And there's only 2 things that have to happen, because the Republic historically is so weak. Only 2 things have to happen. What are those 2 things? Well, I'll give you a hint. One of them is absolutely going to happen at any time. The other one is up to us. You feel powerless over the situation? You won't. You won't. Stand by. We'll give it to you in just a second.
This is Glenn Beck.
Okay, so there was a ceasefire, and peace, apparently, with Hamas. They accepted it, and then they broke it, and conflict between Israel and Hamas escalated again the last few days. Israel launched a major new ground operation into Gaza. Missile strikes have intensified. Air raid sirens in Israel are wailing all the time. Families are being forced into bomb shelters, sometimes for hours at a time. And in the middle of all of it, they're hungry, they're isolated, and they're scared. And the world is starting to turn on them. This is where the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews comes in, the IFCJ. It's been on the ground since way before the war began, providing hot meals, medicine, and housing support to the most vulnerable people in Israel, and emergency protective equipment as well. Your support can make a huge difference. By donating to IFCJ, you help provide essential relief to those who are in need during this crisis. Imagine having to dive for cover when the rockets start. Imagine having to choose between food and medicine while the world falls apart all around you. That's who we're helping, the lives you can directly touch. Your gift is urgently needed. Give it now at 888-488-IFCJ, 888-488-IFCJ, or go to supportifcj.org.
Go to glennbeck.com, get the free email newsletter. It's available now, glennbeck.com.
Welcome to the Glenn Beck program. We've been talking about all of the lies that have been told. Who believes anymore that the traditional media is telling you the truth on anything? Who believes that the media didn't know about Joe Biden? Who believes that Joe Biden's cancer is a new subject? Now, that one's hard because that very well could be brand new. But it also, because we don't believe in so many other things, it might have been known when he was still in the White House. We don't know. But do you believe it? I'm not asking you what you know. I'm asking you what you believe. Then Kash Patel comes out, along with Dan Bongino, two very credible people on our side, on Donald Trump's handpicked inside team. And they say the Epstein suicide was a suicide. And my first response was, mm-mm. And then I immediately went, but it's coming from these guys. I believe these guys. I know these guys. And so then I started getting into critical thinking. Okay, what would it take for me to believe them? And they just have to show us what they saw, because that's a role reversal. They've switched. They said it wasn't a suicide. Now, all I need to know is, what did you see, and show it to me. Okay. Why is this important to use critical thinking? We just went through 4 of the 7 stages of, it's called the 7-stage cycle of civilizational collapse. Okay. First, the age of pioneers. That's the Revolutionary War. Then the age of conquest. That's, the expansion out west. The age of commerce. That is the 20th century, early 20th century. The age of affluence, beginning around the Reagan years, where the decay begins and it becomes about leisure and stuff. Then 5th, and this is where the last time I read this, I thought we were here, and maybe a little in the 6th, maybe. The age of intellect, elite rule, and fragmentation. Experts and technocrats dominate. Reason replaces faith. Society becomes obsessed with process, bureaucracy, identity, and division. People grow disconnected from elites. Populist backlash begins. This is France pre-1789, Weimar Germany in the 1920s, and the U.S. post-2000. The values, relativism, narcissism, hyper-education with moral void. So, technocrats dominate? Yes. Reason replaces faith? Yes. Society becomes obsessed with process? Yes. Bureaucracy? Yes. Identity? Absolutely. And division? The people grow disconnected from elites? Yes. Populist backlash begins? 2016? Yes. Then you get into the 6th stage. The age of decadence, moral decline, and decline of courage. Tell me if you can't check every box on this one. National identity collapses. Almost there. Almost. Immigration without assimilation. Yes. Public debt surges. Yes. Breads and circuses replace responsibility. Yes. Political corruption is normalized. Yes. Gender confusion. Yes. Family disintegration. Yes. Loss of fertility. Yes. The use of drugs. Yes. Hedonism dominates. Yes. That's Rome the 3rd through the 5th century. And is this us today? The values, hedonism, nihilism, and entitlement. I think yes, yes, and yes. Then you get into the last phase. Would you agree, Stu, that we've hit everything else in that?
Yeah, we're here at some degree or another where we've hit all of those.
Okay. The age of decline and collapse, disintegration. There's only two things. Number one, internal distrust, factionalism, and scapegoating. That's the first. All of that is where we are today with those stories. Internal distrust. I don't trust anything. Do you? Factionalism. Hello? MAGA. And the, anti-MAGA. You're either a racist or an anti-racist. And scapegoating. I don't know. Jake Tapper, how's your book going? I think we're there. The last thing to happen, currency collapse, loss of external power, or invasion. With Donald Trump in power, I don't think we're going to lose the external power or invasion unless our currency collapses. And our currency collapse could happen. Did you see they downgraded us yet again? Stu, you remember 2008? I'm saying in 2006, 2007, and we will lose our AAA plus status. They will downgrade us. The quote was, never, from every institution in America. Never. It will never happen. Ever, 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 ever. It will never, ever happen. Well, it happened in like 2009. Then it happened again in like 12 and 16. And they just did it again. So currency collapse is on the board. Values of this era. Despair, tribalism, and the choice between authoritarianism or anarchy. We're there. Okay, so I don't tell you this to bum you out. I tell you this because there is something you can do. That's why I started today's show with those questions. I believe this is a national emergency. And I believe Donald Trump should declare our trust in these institutions a national emergency. We must be transparent. This is why I said I want Kash and I want Dan Bongino to show the American people what changed their minds. I would love a hearing on it, and not some big drawn out, hearing in Congress with a bunch of, I just want to see. I want to see the files. Because internal distrust is a choice. Because if you're saying today, I don't believe Dan Bongino and Kash Patel, which I'm stuck because I do believe them. I think I don't have enough information to go with them on this. I believe in them, but I also believe that Epstein killed himself. Sorry, my throat was killing me.
I just like the fact that you crunched the ice as you took the sip.
I believe them. I just believe also that Epstein killed himself, that he didn't hang himself with a paper sheet. Those two don't match. When something doesn't match, you have to go back and say, which one do you actually think is right? I can't, because I don't have enough information. But I must do that because trust and distrust at this point is a choice. Now, let me show you where distrust leads. If you don't trust Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, then you can't trust the FBI and the DOJ and anything that they're doing there. That's pretty bad, because we just have the biggest reformer of all time, a guy who said he would reform those two institutions, that he would be transparent, and he hired these two guys, and we all cheered for those two guys. So if you don't trust them, if you just immediately go, something's wrong, I don't trust them, without saying, here, I don't trust that is true, but I want to see what changed their mind, then your next step is, well, does Donald Trump know? And if he doesn't do something about them on something this egregious, they're clearly covering something up, then I got a problem with Donald Trump. Where does this end? This ends in guillotines in France. This is what happens. You betrayed the revolution. No, I didn't. That's just not true. So the good news is, this is up to you. These things can be reversed. They just haven't been, but they can be reversed. For instance, why would our currency collapse? Because we're being downgraded. Why are we being downgraded? Because we're spending too much. Why are we spending too much? Because the people in Washington won't listen to the American people. They have no courage. Back to stage 6, decline of courage. That means we need more people who have courage that will say, this is the end of the republic if we don't do certain things. So where will you stand today? Will you dedicate yourself to not changing what you believe, per se, but at least demanding critical thinking answers for good critical thinking questions? I don't believe you. Thus, I am asking you to produce and have a conversation with the American people to show us what changed your mind. Show us the facts. We must restore trust. Back in just a second. When you think of a cell phone company, you probably don't imagine one that is actively shaping the future of our country. But Patriot Mobile isn't just any cell phone provider. It's America's only Christian conservative wireless company, and they are on a mission. Behind the scenes, Patriot Mobile is making real impact. Through their political action committee, Patriot Mobile Action, they have been instrumental in electing conservative school board members all across the state of Texas. In fact, in 2022, they helped elect 11 new school board members in 4 North Texas districts, which passed policies to remove critical race theory and gender ideology from classrooms. Doesn't stop there. Patriot Mobile has donated over $2 million to support Christian conservative causes, including organizations like Turning Point USA, Concerned Women for America, and the Family Research Council. They're also supporting veterans, first responders, and pro-life initiatives. Every call you make with Patriot Mobile helps fund these efforts. They utilize all 3 major networks and provide dependable coverage, and their customer service is 100% U.S.-based. I just read a story. It's in the show prep today. You can get it for free, about Verizon. Verizon, put Eric Holder in as their DEI ESG head. And the FCC, thanks Brandon Carr, thank you for this, Brandon Carr, for doing this. He said, well, DEI is supposed to go away, so I guess we're going to have to investigate you. And they've just announced over the weekend, I believe, or Friday, we're getting out of DEI. But that's where they are. They are still fighting it. They are still part of that culture. Why are you doing business with them? Switch to patriotmobile.com/Beck. patriotmobile.com/Beck or call 972-PATRIOT. 972-PATRIOT. Use the promo code Beck. Get a free month of service. patriotmobile.com/Beck. 972-PATRIOT.
Can't believe he used to be a top 40 disc jockey. But anyway, we still love him. Glenn Beck will be right back.
Home title theft happens more often than you think. In 2025, sophisticated criminals have perfected a digital heist that requires nothing more than an internet connection and forged paperwork. They scan public property records, they identify valuable homes, they target unsuspecting owners, and the theft itself happens in broad daylight, completely legal on paper. These criminals forge your signature on transfer documents and file them with local authorities. Just like that, it kind of seems like you sold your home to them, and it seems very legal. Of course, it's not. No alarms go off, though. No notifications arrive anywhere. The system treats it as a routine property transfer. And once they control your title, the real damage can start. They can quickly secure large loans using your home as collateral and then disappear with the cash. You remain blissfully unaware until months later when foreclosure notices start arriving at your house. Not fun to go through. Suddenly, you owe hundreds of thousands of dollars on loans that you never approved. The worst part, none of your existing protections cover this scenario. A home title lock does, though. They change the equation completely. They place a digital shield around your property title and monitor it constantly. Any attempt to alter your deed triggers immediate alerts. Their team springs into action to help you block these transfers before they're permanent. And, we know AI is changing the world. Don't let it change the name on your home's title. Go to HometitleLock.com and stop it. The promo code's Blaze at HometitleLock.com.
Welcome to the Glenn Beck program.
So when you talk about critical thinking, isn't part of critical thinking asking yourself the question, what possible motivation would Dan Bongino, of all people in the world, and Kash Patel have to lie to the MAGA base about this being a suicide?
Play the Dan Bongino and Kash Patel response.
You said Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide. People don't believe it.
Well, I mean, listen, they have a right to their opinion, but as someone who has worked as a public defender, as a prosecutor, who's been in that prison system, who's been in the Metropolitan Detention Center, who's been in segregated housing, you know a suicide when you see one, and that's what that was.
He killed himself. You want me to? I've seen the whole file. He killed himself.
What possible motivation other than the fact that maybe he just killed himself?
Yeah. The motivation, some would say, is they've been co-opted.
Dan Bongino and Kash Patel have been co-opted by the deep state.
That's the choice everybody has to make. And I'm not saying you have enough information to make that. I've made that, but I can't square what he just said because I don't think anybody kills themselves with paper sheets.
But I mean, probably that's that. I mean, because we obviously have seen, but probably that wasn't the way it happened.
Right. Like, so I want to know, what did he see? What did he see that said, no, Dan, you're wrong. I know you want to believe that he didn't hang himself, that it was something else, but he did. I want to know. Dan is a good guy. He has not been co-opted. Kash Patel is a good guy. He hadn't been co-opted. So what is it that changed their mind?
And I think there is something you have to allow for new information to change your mind. And I think there are some people who don't allow that anymore. That's the problem. We've seen that with many conspiracy theories in the past. No matter what information comes out.
Then you have made your own religion, just like climate change people. Just like the Trump derangement syndrome people. No new information will change your mind. You're in a religion if you believe that. But I want the information.
This is Glenn Beck.